Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today on TapTalk,
Tappity talk.
we're going to be going through the Entertainers versus...
The Alchemists.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen one of these before, what we do is we pretty much play a two-player game of Tapestry with two different civilizations that we think kind of
interact well together or are similar in some way.
Right. So, yeah, we try to pick two that, do things together or, will interact or feel somewhat similar.
Yeah.
And kind of see how that plays out. And then we'll go over kind of our strategies for them and then talk about kind of if we think they're a good civilization for a beginner player and how powerful they are compared to some of the other civilizations. So what did you have?
I had the Alchemists, who suck. They love to push their luck. So at the beginning of each of my income turns, 2 to 5, not the first one, of course, I can roll the research die and up to 4 times, and each one I roll, each symbol, I will place a cube on one of these marking the corresponding track, and I can either stop and move up on each of the tracks that I've rolled without gaining the benefit, or I can push my luck and keep rolling, and if I roll the same symbol...
Like you did there.
Yes, like I did there. That's about how the game went. Then I will bust, and I will gain a resource. It's a little help.
Yeah. So, that's pretty much what they're doing is possibly helping you get up tracks if you're lucky enough, but you don't get any of the benefits from it. So, if you're kind of in some places before certain abilities that you don't really want, it can be helpful if you can kind of plan I'll maybe take my income a little earlier than I would have liked just because, if I can roll maybe 2 of these, I can get past these that cost 2 or 3 resources because I don't really want the benefit on them. But otherwise, it's very push your lucky.
It is very push your lucky.
There are times like you did there, you roll the same one twice in a row.
Same one.
And if you didn't really want it, I guess you get a resource. But well, and I played the Entertainers, where there's a little chart on the Entertainers that the first row will give you one of the different resources, the next row will give you one of the different houses, the next row will give you either a conquer ability, a roll the green or the science die with no benefit ability, gain a tech card, or lay a tile is that next row. And then the last row is to move up on one of the 4 corresponding tracks. And they kind of all intertwine with one another. So once you select one of them,
then you just have 2 options.
Yep,
for the next.
Yep, your options are narrowed down from that point forward. So you kind of have to do a little planning ahead of time, but because otherwise sometimes I think you can get to the last one and you might go up a track, or you might have the options to go up tracks that really don't give you any benefit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one that you have to plan a little bit ahead. You always, at least in the first 3 rounds, you always get something, which is nice. I mean, compared to something like that where, you get 1 resource, but that can be that can be good or bad, and just going up a track with no benefit or multiple tracks, maybe if you plan it out right, it can be
It
good,
could be really good in some situations, but...
Right, but I think like this, you're at least typically getting something.
Yeah.
So that is the Entertainers. And I guess I'll go through kind of my strategy what I was thinking for the Entertainers when I started the game. I'd originally thought that I was going to, since it doesn't really have or favor any one track, I don't think, over the others, really. I kind of wanted to end up either with the option of the science or military track as my last two. So then I kind of worked back from there, and was originally thinking of getting a tile and also a gray building. I think the main thing I wanted to get was the gray building, because those always seem the hardest to get.
Oh, yes, for sure.
So that meant that I either had to start the first round by getting either a yellow resource, a brown, or a red. So I think if you look at this, I think they kind of don't interact with the ones that they go with. So I knew I wanted the gray building, so I limited it down that way. And then kind of as the game went on, I had, for my first tapestry card, I had gotten whenever I invent a tech card, gain the circle benefit on it, but the card remains on the bottom row. So I kind of knew I wanted to do a lot of tech cards, and I think I picked that one up with luckily with my final action I took of the turn, and that made me decide, you know what, well, I'm going to go up that tech track, so I'm going to need yellow resources, and lo and behold, that yellow resource will allow me to get that gray building as well. So that's how I had decided that, and then it kind of just took on from there. Probably it seemed like one of the quickest I've ever shot up. That single track, and didn't really move up on anything, and ended up getting 8 technology cards, which were pretty. Not all in that first turn.
No, not the first turn.
But I think I got 5 of them during this, so I think I got 5 benefits from this card, which was pretty good. But then, of course, I took my next income, didn't get another great tapestry card, but then at that point wanted to just kind of keep going up the tech track as much as I could. I wanted to try to finish it as quickly as possible and then see what I could kind of do with placing the cube on another track, especially since I hadn't really started on anything outside of, I think, the blue track. I was on like the 3rd space, so wanted to kind of see what I could do with that. And then, of course, that next spot that I hit was the discard 3 tech cards, and then 2 building cards came up. So if that would have came out when I was doing
just earlier,
just a little bit earlier, that would have been
gotten those
really big for me. Could have got those buildings out there.
You got all of your buildings off anyway.
That is true. By the end of the game, I did end up getting them all off. So it didn't necessarily come back to bite me that much, and it still allowed me, getting those eventually, and still having to go up further on that track allowed me to get a lot of those buildings very quickly compared to some other games. Then what else? What did you have going on early?
Very early. I got a tapestry card that is possibly the best tapestry card to get. That's your first tapestry card.
You definitely turned it into one of the best.
Yes. But it didn't really go. Doesn't seem like it goes too well with this.
Right.
So my tapestry card was Renaissance. When played, advance on each track exactly once. Do not gain the benefits. You may gain any resulting bonuses for free. So once I saw that, I knew I wanted to move up 1 spot on each, the tech track, the science track, and the military track, so that I could move up and get one of each of those buildings. But I didn't really care about the tapestry card here, so then I decided I wanted to move up on the exploration track. So then I ended up moving to this 3rd spot, and I used my Alchemist ability to roll to move another spot, not gain that benefit, still gain the landmark, and then
also be 1 spot.
To be 1 spot short of this bonus.
Which was another building.
Which is another building, which my Renaissance will claim. So I was able to get 4, 1 of each type.
It was probably one of the most impressive moves I've seen in the early game in Tapestry, because
that really sets you up with 8 resources.
Right, that's just insane to think about, honestly. And you say that they don't really, you weren't sure that they work together. I feel like that actually gives you a chance to.
It helped me there, but any other movement I don't care about.
Right.
But if I was short on some, like I was here, then it does help.
Right. I mean, I think it at least gives you the option
Yeah.
of potentially being able to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, I mean, it ended up working out for you. And like you
Yeah.
said, it might not have, but
Yeah.
I suppose if you're going to have the Alchemists, that was a card that sort of, I don't know how many Tapestry cards actually work with the Alchemists. I don't know if there's much that really does.
Yeah.
Because, I'm assuming you didn't really have a specific track. Well, outside of you were thinking, kind of start a little bit on each one.
Yeah. But then I had moved up here, so at that point I decided that I'm going to go exploration and likely military as well.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened after that?
Then we get, yes, the rest of my tapestry cards, they weren't really that great.
Right.
I did get a trap card, which I wanted to lure you into. And I got you to attack me once, and I lay that boy down. I'm like, boom, I got you. And he's like, nope, I got this card that cancels your trap.
Yes.
And then I ended up getting another, not really a trap card, but it let me
It was like a retreat card.
But it also gave me a resource that I really needed to move up one more spot on there. But he was able to extend his civilization long enough that I had to end my game. And I could, in the stupidest rule ever, once you have taken your last income, you cannot play any trap cards of any sort. Which, that's hurt me multiple times. So I really, really, really hate that rule.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting rule because typically it seems like players that are prolonging their end game are already usually ahead.
Yeah.
So that just gives them another step up, I think. But I don't know. It gives you something to plan for. You still have to plan okay, I have to wait long enough, but I still have to have the resources to go for another conquer if I want to do that. If I'm trying to either get the two topple or get the center island.
Yeah.
I think you still have to be...
you got both.
Right.
With that one.
Well, that's only because you moved in there. I lucked out with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, after I'd gotten up on the tech track, I had actually chosen... I had not moved on the science track at that point, so I had 2 cubes as the starting point of the science. Because actually going before my third income, I actually had all of my yellow and all of my brown buildings based off of kind of manipulating the tech cards from going up the tech track, which typically I don't seem to get all of them off, especially in 2 rows, but I think you might have had that too in going into the your last income phase. But then I had chosen to go up there, which I did my income first, which gave me those 3 bonus resources, which helped. But then this is a card that I've almost never actually used, I don't think. But it's where you can pay 5, 10, or 15 points to gain 1, 2, or 3 resources. Or else pay 1, 2, 3 resources to get the victory points. And you can't spend victory points you don't have. And this was actually the starting card that I had, which is almost it's almost useless if you don't even get to 5 points.
Is it really useless? Because you can go negative points, can't you? I would assume.
Well, it's saying you can't spend them that you don't have. So I'm assuming that means you can't go negative.
Oh, well then you can't. I just assume since some of the adjustments bring you down that you could.
Well, I don't know if they do anymore. I think they might just bring others up. No, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so I had gotten 6 bonus resources. I didn't know if it was going to be too much, but I thought, hey, I've never done this before, and I just felt like you had gotten such a good start with that card, being able to get those, all those extra resources, which is just huge. So I'm like, I've got to try something, I haven't really done before to try to make up some ground, and so I had a lot of resources going into that last round, and ended up getting all the way up on the science track, which also helped me manipulate a few other things, which definitely helped me, fill up my city and also get all of my other buildings off of my player mat, which is something I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
I always love to try to do it.
I don't
It's
think
great when
I've
it
ever
works.
done it, but I know you've done it a few times.
Yeah, but I didn't even get my whole thing filled in, though, which is, it always kind of sucks when you get them all off. And
I had this whole thing. I could not place it.
if you could have just had a smaller version of it, that's the space you missed.
I had that exact shape.
Mm-hmm. But then how did your game kind of end? I think you ended up going...
Yeah, I got to the end of this track, almost the end of that track. I was able to get a few space tiles.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I really wanted to get a lot of space tiles.
Mm-hmm.
So then I stopped going up this track, because you had already made it to the end of a track, so there's no rush for me to get that achievement.
Right.
And then I started shooting up the science to repeat this action and get more space tiles.
And play another one.
And I wish that the first space tile that I would have gotten would have been this. Every time you move up science, 5 points. Because if that had been in the first 3 that I got, then I would have gotten all of those, probably like 20 points more from moving up
20
science.
to 30 more points just from moving up.
Because once I got that, I only moved up 2 more times on science.
Mm-hmm.
Because I ran out of resources.
Mm-hmm. But... yeah, so you got to the end. You went to space, though.
I went to space,
and
that's all that
got
matters.
four tiles played, and they were pretty. I mean, you scored a decent amount of points from them.
I got to rescore my capital city here, which is pretty good. A good 14 points.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, I kind of had a few extra resources left over from when you ended your game, and then I just kind of went in and conquered to get just those extra points from toppling and getting to the center island, which was nice. It was a nice little bonus points. But yeah, like you said, is that the best thing to not be able to play that trap?
I mean, if you set up a trap, does it just disappear?
Yes, it
once
does.
Once you're so advanced that you've moved into space,
well, you just left your traps there.
We took them with us.
This took years later. These traps are all destroyed.
Yeah, but with that bonus early on, that helped me move up all the tracks, which made me get to the much better actions, which made this a lot less useful for me.
Right.
Because I wanted to take most of these actions out here that I really didn't see a use for this.
Right.
So I didn't want to skip anything.
And then one resource isn't really that amazing.
Yeah.
Just getting an extra one each time.
And of course, on my very last income, when you'd get 5 points for every roll that would send you off the end of a track. I was at the end of the exploration track, and I rolled, I got military, I rolled, I got science, I rolled, I got tech, and I rolled, and I got tech again, and busted. So I couldn't even get 5 points from this.
You poor thing. You poor thing. That really sucks when the die just isn't in your favor. Yeah, we ended up with scores of 293 for the entertainers to 281 for the alchemists. So it was actually really close. I think making that decision to give up those 15 points for those extra resources, I think it... I mean, I did have one resource left over, so that could have saved me 5 points.
Could have gotten 5 points.
But I think having those extra probably got... I don't know. It's always tough to tell.
I think it would.
When you have so many of them and you're using them for bonuses and kind of being able to get other resources, it's hard to really think back okay, if I hadn't taken it, would I have been able to do as much?
True.
But I think it was worth it.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think it probably got me the win. I think I would have probably lost otherwise.
I think so.
But yeah, I
think you should have. Wait, no, you did trade points to resources. I was gonna change it and tried to make you lose 15 more points, but you did lose 15 points. You should have traded 30.
I should have. Who knows what I could have been able to pull off then.
I had that mixed up in my head.
But yeah, so I had kind of suspected from the beginning that the entertainers would probably win. But I will say I was thinking, oh no, he's going to get a huge score here with the Alchemists after you had all those buildings off that quickly. I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to be good for the entertainers. Because I think both of these, they don't really have a good way to like swing you into getting, a ton of points or something that quickly.
I think this is a really good one to set yourself up for some specific Tapestry cards, to put yourself on a certain spot, or maybe your tech cards.
Right.
To really maybe repeat an action somewhere or something.
Right. But yeah, still you need to actually roll the stuff, which is, it comes down to being lucky or unlucky part of the time as well. Whereas the entertainers, you can have a plan, but you don't necessarily have to follow it, but you always seem to get something except for maybe the last thing you do, which, mine ended up being useful this time because I went up on the military track to do that last conquer, which was nice. But, yeah, sometimes you can get to the end and not get anything from it or have two options that do nothing for you.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I would say we did not play with the updated...
the civilization adjustments.
Yeah, the adjustments for them, which... it's not surprising to us, but the Alchemists are supposed to start with 2 extra resources and also an additional 10 points, which actually
would put me within 2 points of you. With 2 resources, I think that would make that difference, but you also would start
the entertainers also start with an extra resource as well. So I would agree that these ones probably can use a little bit of a little
boost.
Extra boost.
Yeah.
Especially the Alchemist. I think that one it's very situational.
Maybe if you gain the bonus.
Right.
Possibly. Just to get nothing.
Right.
Because there's one where you can move up one each income. You can only move up on one of them, and you can't repeat. But you do gain the not the bonus, you gain the action.
Oh, right.
And if you hit one good one on here, you're probably going to stop because you don't want to bust. At least I did because I'm a baby.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just going to get one anyway, this is just a much worse version of that.
Right. That would actually be interesting. I don't know if that would make it too powerful then towards the end. But if you had it where
it would just be similar to what I did with that Tapestry card.
Right, but if you got the bonuses for the ones you did, that would be interesting. That would definitely make them a lot...
other than those, a lot of them are trading in. Oh yeah, you get them for free, that's right. Maybe just allow you to pay for the bonus instead, and maybe not for free.
I don't know. I'm trying to think, it might actually be good to get the bonus. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think it would definitely make it a lot better.
It definitely wouldn't make it the most overpowered one. That's for sure.
Right. But yeah, I guess using your scale from 1 to 5 of how strong it is compared to other civilizations, what would you give the Alchemists and the Entertainers?
I was able to use this somewhat
in a
well.
way that worked.
But that was on 1 of the 4 times, pretty much.
Right.
I'm going to give this a 1 out of 5. On those, I think those can be really game-changing near the end, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do have a good game plan in place, I'd say that could be maybe a 2, maybe 2.5.
Wow, we are thinking just about the same there on that one as well. Yeah, I was thinking for sure that's a 1. to me. I personally like it because I like push your luck. But yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm trying to think, even if you did get all 4, it would feel good at the time. But I don't know that it would necessarily put you forward in the game at all.
See, you're
necessarily.
not gaining anything.
Right.
Which you may be farther ahead could save you some resources, but maybe that stopped you from producing resources.
Right. Or, I mean, I guess one thing that you got a building from it.
Yes.
So
you could
maybe that could be a good use for it.
Near the end of the game, if your mat isn't as full as mine, where this is useless, you could just roll it if you're just a little bit short.
One short of something.
Get one of those, maybe fill some lines in for some points.
Mm-hmm. So I could see that would be maybe. I hadn't thought of that. That's probably one of the bigger things that maybe it could be used for. But yeah, I totally agree. A 1 and I was thinking around the 2.5 as well, just because that still can be useful, like you said, if you kind of plan a little bit ahead at least and know where you need to be on a certain track towards the end of the game. You can maybe make one final big move possibly at the end of the game. But for ease of play, outside of maybe having to know how to plan this, I think this one would be halfway decent for...
Yeah, you're going to get something, so you don't really have to plan.
Right. So I would think this one would be a decent one for a newer player. It may not be maybe not a first game one, but I think it would definitely be one of the early ones I would introduce to a new player, or it would definitely be in the conversation. I don't think I would feel like if a new player got this that they're gonna have no clue what they're doing. At worst, they'll just go along the tracks and get something. It may not, be the most efficient way to do it or whatever, but they still are able to get something. And I also think that one's a really good one for a first player, just because
you just roll and you want to go up there or not.
You can almost totally ignore it with the rest of your gameplay, and then just decide how you want to try to roll the dice.
Yeah, there's a couple civs that really kind of dictate how you play the game, and some that just give you an in between age bonus, and this is definitely one of the latter.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think this one kind of falls in that category as well, but you can at least plan a little bit towards the end.
Dictate how you play, but how you plan to play dictates how you do that.
Right. So yeah, overall,
not the strongest.
Not the strongest. They don't really dictate your play that much. You kind of... These are the types of ones that I would say I would definitely look at what you have for Tapestry cards and kind of go from there instead, and then kind of based on that determine what you want to do. Yeah. Like you kind of did, you were able to take advantage of that card. I was able to take advantage of mine that helped me with technology and stuff. That just ended up all working out pretty well.
So that was those.
That was the Alchemists versus the Entertainers. What are we going to do next time?
What are we going to do? I don't know. What is Unstore next?
Looks like we've got the Traders versus the Militants. We will see how these work against one another. I think we've got another week. We've got another weak civilization, but I think we're going to take on the Militants. Which
I think that's about the best that they could take on. And we picked these completely randomly.
Yes, but yeah, if you have any questions on how the Alchemists or the Entertainers play, or have any strategy questions on them, or if you have any strategies that you use when you've played these that
tell us how to break 300 points with these. It's impossible.
Yes, tell us how it's done. Tell us how it's done. Yeah, I mean, I thought for sure this was a 300 score. I mean, having all my buildings off.
Yeah, your buildings are
14 lines. All those tech cards. a little surprised, but yeah, we will
See you next time.
keep on nibbling.